Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Welcome to the Follow the Brand podcast. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM. Today's guest is a career information technology professional with a keen focus on the healthcare field. He uses his empathy and drives to bring innovative solutions to life to enable positive outcomes for the patients and employees he serves. Harley got his start by taking advice from his relative's friend to pursue a career in technology. He would work in a doctor's office working on computers at night and attend school during the day to get his bachelor's degree from Florida Atlantic University and later a master's degree from the University of Phoenix. Once he got into a leadership role, he saw the path to success. As the manager for network engineering and telecom for a large institution, he learned time management, further enhanced his people skills, and began to truly develop his management style. As the manager of network engineering and telecom, he oversaw network engineering, telecom, audiovisual, cabling infrastructure, digital signage, and mobility teams. After successfully managing these teams and winning Service Excellence Awards and being recognized by his peers as a transformational leader, encouraged him to pursue the next step as a director. Currently, he is the Associate Director of Network Engineering and Operations at Jackson Health System. In this role, he is overseeing the operations, setting long-term goals, budgeting, and driving the technology of his teams. Harley says you must have both a formal education degree and technical certifications to compete in today's IT job market. He believes the true value that whatever we do will stem from the people. To drive technology, we need to drive the people behind it. Understand what motivates individuals, understand how to keep them engaged, and encourage them to begin their path. At the end of the day, Harley believes that if he has impacted one person in his life during his journey, then he will feel accomplished. Listen and enjoy our discussion as Harley details his love to see people succeed as he leverages technology to its full potential. Harley Ortiz is putting himself in the future to become a Chief Technology Officer, to not only drive technology, but give a true focus and path for an organization. Let's welcome Harley Ortiz on the Follow the Brand podcast, here where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another glorious week on Follow the Brand. This is the Follow the Brand podcast with your host, Grant McGaugh. And as always, we have a special guest. This special guest is a veteran in the healthcare information technology space. I've known Harley Ortiz, and I'm trying to remember. I think I've known Harley maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know how many years. But every year that I've known Harley, it has been wonderful. And you know what? The last time I saw Harley, this is a true story. Last time I saw Harley, we were at the Fontainebleau Hotel. And me and my girlfriend had just eaten dinner. I come out, there's 3-4 million people that live in Miami-Dade County. Who do I see standing there waiting for his car at the valet? Harley Ortiz. So I want to introduce you to Harley. He has been a wonderful person, a great friend. And I wanted to bring him on this show because he has a great story, and I want you all to hear it. So without further ado, Mr. Harley Ortiz.
Thank you, Grant. It's a pleasure, to see you. It's been a while, especially because of COVID. So I'm so happy to see your face, be able to talk to you, and it feels like we're here in person. So I love it.
Oh yeah. And this is as close as we can get so much, right now, because we have been in the COVID time. I got vaccinated and I thought we were coming out of this in the summer. I was so happy. Man, I'm so sick of this mask that I have to wear and that type of thing. And then boom, we went right back into this Delta variant, and the hospitals again are ringing the bell. Now you work at a hospital. We'll talk about what you've been doing because you have an illustrious career for the last 20 plus years. So tell us to begin. How did you start your story, Mr. Ortiz?
Well, I can tell you that I for me, really, it started from the college time frame that, I'm getting out of high school and I'm trying to decide exactly what I want to do in my life. And I have an older brother, so I was going to follow in his footsteps and just try to go into business administration. And never forget one of his friends, when I told him, I'm going to follow business administration. And I never forget, he told me, he says, look, Harley, the future is going to be computers. Do something related to computers. And I was like, you know what? Why not? And I actually chose management information systems, was the bachelor's degree at that time. And I pursued it. I actually went into college. I did my management information systems as a bachelor degree. And while I was in college, I was obviously trying to pay some bills, pay insurance for the car, gas for the car. I was working at a condo association, buffing floors while I was in college. And never forget, the head of security, his wife worked in a doctor's office. And he says, hey, they're looking for somebody part-time to go ahead and work on some of the computer stuff part-time. And since you're doing your bachelor's in computers, maybe you want to get some exposure. So I ended up doing the interview and I got the job to work part-time, fixing PCs in a doctor's office. So for a little bit over a year, I worked at a condo association from 6 a.m. to about 2:00 in the afternoon, buffing floors, like literally buffing floors with a machine and waxing and all that other stuff. I would leave there, go to the doctor's office and work on computers until about 6:00. And then from there, I would go to college and go attend class from 7 to 10 at night. And I did that routine for about a year until finally the part-time became full-time. And then I was able to work full-time at the doctor's office and managing their servers and kind of helping out with email exchange and doing kind of that minor stuff. And it's a small doctor's office. So he really looked out for me for that time frame. Eventually, I outgrew that and I was ready to kind of move on and go to a bigger organization. And I went to a job fair where Jackson Health System was there. And same thing. It's one of the things that I got lucky. And I'll never forget the actual recruiter that was there. His name was Vishnu. And I remember talking to him and he says, look, I'm not here for IT. We're really recruiting nurses. But you know what? Go ahead and give me your resume. Go ahead and give me your resume. I know some of the IT folks. I'll hand it over. And I got lucky. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. I did an interview. And I think a month later, I ended up getting the job as a desktop technician at Jackson Health System.
That's how you started. Yeah. That's the start. That's your start of your history at Jackson. Isn't that something?
That was my and I think it was like in 2000 or 2001, I think is when I started there around that time frame. And I got in at a very good time because during that time they were building up the desktop team and trying to get organized and stuff like that. So I feel like I came in at a good time to the organization to do that particular job. Once I was there, Jackson is one of these places. It's a huge place. It feels like it's a little city. And I got to admit, it felt like home because everything was there. Like, we had the dry cleaners, we had the post office, I was like, man, we don't have to leave this place. So for me, moving from a doctor's office to a large organization, it was extremely, it was an eye opener for me. That I'm like, this this is a career. I can make this a career. I can move forward with it. Especially that my bachelor's was focused on management information systems, and that's what I decided. I'm like, I'm gonna ride this. I'm gonna see where this takes me. And once I was there, my goal was to kind of just absorb, learn, take as much as I can in, apply what I've learned from school. And then eventually I got the opportunity that I wiggled my way around, and I started getting into different disciplines within IT. Besides desktop technician, we were able to form a group which was called Move at Change Group, that just focused on anything that was like new deployments and moves and changes. Then from there, I was able to wiggle my way around into like what they called a peripheral device coordinator. Had to do with coordinating between the applications group and the hardware group. So I kind of started doing that. And then eventually I got my break to get into network engineering. And once I got into network engineering, that opened my eyes for like a completely different side of it, because I was focused, especially in healthcare. We're very, I don't want to say segmented, but we have our specialties. You have your desktop guys that focus on the PCs. You have your network engineers focusing on the networking, the routing, the switching, and even on the server side, right? You have your system admins that focus on data center and stuff like that. So we're very, we have our specialties. So for me, I was focused on desktop. I was focused on the PCs. And when I got into network engineering, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I can do some damage here. So that to me also was just like another step for me, that I'm like, man, how can I now exceed or excel, as to where I'm at now within network engineering.
Let me ask you this, because our audience, some of our audience are not tech savvy. So as you're explaining your experience and your trajectory, you need to understand when they're talking peripherals, you're talking about what I call something you can touch and feel, your end user compute, correct, right? Your mobile device or your desktop or anything like that. But when you got into network engineering, now you're working in the Wi-Fi world. Are you working with the network switching or?
Correct. It has to do more with the routing, the network switching, exactly that, the wireless, from a security perspective, the firewalls. So that kind of infrastructure is really what I got involved in. And like I said, that just opened up the door to like a whole new side of IT. Because there was, for quite some time, I was focused on the desktop side. I was focused on the application of the PC, what the PC is doing. But now, technically, I'm going behind the PC, right? I'm going, what's happening behind that cable and in the wall, and it goes back to a closet. What's going on in there? And like I said, that just exposed me to a whole other side of it that was exciting to me. And very fortunate that I got the opportunity. I worked very hard, though. Don't get me wrong. I did it with a purpose, because I wanted to move forward. I wanted to achieve different things. So I knew that working hard was going to get me there. So I feel like I did what I needed to do. And I achieved it. I was able to get into the network engineering side of it and focused on that side of it. So
let me ask you this, Harley, because you definitely have a lot of experience and a lot of stories that you have been exposed to in your career. And if you were talking to the audience, a person out there who's now just getting their degree, they're just getting started in this, and they're very interested in information technology. And I get a lot of people asking me this question a lot, how do I break into health information technology? What does that look like? If there's something that was in your career and something that you would want to tell even your younger self, what would that be? What would that sound like?
It's always been a challenge, and I've seen it over the years that it has changed in the sense of before, it used to be like a technical degree. So in other words, we wanted you to have the certifications in order for you to get in here. And typically it was one or the other. And I remember back in the days, that's the way it was. It was either you have certifications or you have your formal degree in the sense of, a bachelor's or something along those lines. I got to admit, nowadays, you got to have both. Right nowadays, you know that resume needs to show some certifications, a bachelor. I mean, it's a very competitive, more competitive now than ever before, in my opinion. Because now, if I'm hiring somebody and I look at a resume, you know, we're looking at the experience, we're looking at the certifications, we're looking at what kind of formal education do they have, and it all comes into play these days. So for me, my journey was based on the times that we were living in. I didn't focus on certifications because I was focused on getting the real world experience because I was given the opportunity. You know, I got to admit, I wasn't looking to get into network engineering. I was excited about it. I looked at it. I was given the opportunity, and I excelled. Um, but I gotta admit, once I started taking off into network engineering, I'm like, man, what's the next step here? And that's when I decided, you know what? Before I get some more certifications or before I work on certifications, I want to go ahead and get my master's. Um, and I kind of at that point, once I decided I want to get my master's, I kind of knew I want to get into leadership. I wanna be a part at a different level. And I think that's what made me decide to take the route that I did, which is more into the leadership world. So my background still is obviously all the desktops, and so I you know, I don't want to say I started from the bottom because it's not the bottom. By no means is that the bottom at all. Um, but I got started at that level. You
No,
know, with people where you know,
and this is the thing that I've learned. I just learned this from Leon Green, and someone's listened to that particular episode. Is that when you understand what it is that is your craft, what you do, you understand it at a higher level that you can actually teach it to someone else, makes you a great leader. So now you understand, not only you've mastered and you understand that peripheral world, now you understand that network world. So when you go into leadership, and then you have to not only guide your guys or girls or whoever it may be to be able to manage and keep the runtime up on these systems, you can now have that conversation with the business. And when they come to you with a problem, they say, you know what, this is what's happening, you know, in this particular department. Is there a technological solution? And then you can, you know, you can understand the business side as well as the technical side. Have you found that to be a benefit for you?
oh no, 100%. I mean, you know, just to your example, you know, even back in the days, our CIOs during that time frame, a lot of them were old mainframe guys. And you know, these are CIOs that really didn't understand what we were what was coming, storage and networking and the switches, and because they had a background in mainframes. So even that has evolved, and now the CIOs of today, they know, you know, storage, they know the switching, they know all that stuff. So I think that's where it kind of puts me in that environment that I started from that aspect. So I know what the PC is doing, I know what the network is doing, you know, and then I can translate all that because I've been a part of that. So I you know, back to your question, if I have to give advice to anybody that's starting in this, is definitely observe. Try to get involved in as much as you can, because all you want to do is just absorb all that information, because it all ties in together. I'm lucky and I'm very fortunate that in my career, and which has been based around healthcare IT, you know, we have our disciplines that we focus on. So I've always been focused on majority of the networking side. Like I said, I started off on desktop. So once I got into networking, that's my wheelhouse, right? That's where I live. But there are other organizations, there are other environments that you have the IT guy that does it all. You know, he is the desktop guy, he is the firewall guy, he is the, you know, the networking guy. And now that's not a bad thing. You know, you're a jack of all trades if you can handle it. But you have a basic understanding. So when you're talking to the different leaders that handle those areas, you're all talking at the same level. And you know, you can call each other out on certain things.
I'm sure. Now, I want to pivot a little bit, because now we've talked a little bit about your career. We talked a little bit about your expertise. But we haven't talked a lot about you as a person. And this is a branding show. And I want, there's going to be people listening in on this show. I want you to tell us a story, something about yourself that a lot of people don't know.
So I when it comes to branding and even before this interview, and talking to I've thought about that. I've had to like take a step back and say, what have I done? Who am I? How have I gotten here? And how do I continue to do this? And it's all because I like the person I feel I am. So to your point, I am a person that I want to say I love and I enjoy people, working with people and seeing people succeed. I love to empower people. I make it known. I don't know it all, and I don't want to know it all. I want to make sure that I can put people in places where they're going to succeed and they're going to excel and they're going to accomplish what they want to accomplish. I am not one of those that I'm going to succeed on your back. In other words, right? I'm not going to hold you here. If you're one of my guys, I'm not going to hold you here until, because you're doing a great job for me. And if you leave, all of a sudden this falls apart. Like if you leave, I want to see that you're leaving for a better job, more money, and because you're going to make you and your family happy, and that's great for you. And put me down as a reference. That's so I gotta admit, for me, that's one thing, right? I really enjoy seeing that. I like seeing people succeed, whether it's with me, without me. I think it's a great thing. I've done it. I feel like I've done it. I've been able to move up in my career. And I like seeing people do that. I like seeing them accomplish their goals. So that's one thing about me that, I don't know if a lot of people know. I want to say the people that were close with me, they know that because I've said it, but some other people might not know that. What leadership is. Because I've had so many, I've had a lot of CIOs, I've had a lot of directors, I've had managers. And I think over time, I've just absorbed, right, from every single leader that I've had, the good qualities. And obviously taking note on what I felt was the bad qualities, but try to understand it. Who I'm from. Perfect example is, and it's very controversial when it comes to, like, even you mentioned about you getting vaccinated, right? And there's people that don't want to get vaccinated. And this is where I take a step back and, I'm not going to go, why not? Why don't you want to? I take a step back and, and I try to put myself in their shoes. Why wouldn't they want to? And try to understand that and then sympathize to that, for whatever reason it may be. But that's the way I try to approach different things. So when it comes to me, my career, working with people, I'm very sympathetic to their cause. I try to go above and beyond to get the job done, whatever it is, whether it's personal, whether it's work related. And I think it's because of that. I just, I can shed a tear. I can shed a tear on a good romantic movie. There's going to be a tear coming out. And, but I'm just, no matter what I do, it's going to be there. So I would say that's another piece of me that has helped me in my career and has kind of pushed me along as well.
Well, I tell you one thing, you filled out the online questionnaire on the 5starbdm.com website, and it helps you to frame who you are, kind of step back, look in the mirror, right? And one of the things I liked is that when we asked about what are your top values, your operating principles, your statement stood out. It said, I am with you. I will work with you. No one is below me. We work to get her towards the same goals, or we work toward the same goals. Sorry about that. That tells me, and more than that, throughout your entire questionnaire answers, empathy, that you put yourselves in another person's shoes, especially in the healthcare system. Especially, I know you used to work at Nicholas Miami Children's as well. Mm-hmm. And when you see children that are hurt and are going through, health issues, you can't help but I would figure to be empathetic. You've got to have a heart for that. So he's like, hey, let me do my part. I will make sure this is not one of your problems, that you have that, whatever from a information technology perspective that you can provide, you will provide. And I remember talking to you when you were over there at Children's. You have a son. Your son, I believe his name was Harley as well, right? This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand.
Correct, it is.
So as this is your son, you're his dad, I'm sure that he looks up to you in what you do. And if you were on this show, what would you say to him about your career and what you've done in life?
So, it's funny. I mean, he's 11 years old now. And also I have a daughter who's 15. So I want to say they've come along with me on this journey because they're very familiar with the hospitals that I worked at. They've been to Mercy when I was there because I took them to the water to go look at the water and show them my office. And that's when they were really, really young. I've taken them over to Jackson. I've taken them over to Nicholas. And so they know my journey. I want to say they know the places that I've worked. They've seen some of the stuff. And every day when I get home, how's work, Daddy? How's work? What did you do today? How many meetings did you have today, Daddy? That's kind of the feedback. So they're aware. And I've been a part of a lot of expansion projects through Nicholas, through Jackson Health System. And when I say expansion projects, it's like new buildings, new medical offices. And my kids have seen it because whether it's been a grand opening, whether it's been something along those lines, they've seen that all the infrastructure that has gone in. I've taken them into the network closets and I'm like, look, this is what Daddy works on. I never say that this is what I do because I didn't do any of it. But as a team, this is what we got done. So they've seen it. They've seen it, they hear it. And I want to say they're very proud of me, because they respect, I think they respect what I do. They know that in an essence, I feel like lives are at stake. What we do in regards to healthcare IT, we're supporting the doctors, the nurses, the staff in order for them to get their jobs done so they can, in essence, take care of the patient. So I take it very seriously as to what I do, especially when it comes to healthcare. So to your point, working at my life that just completely different than working at an adult hospital. When you walk around and you see the kids and you feel for them. So you just want to go out of your way. Like, what can you do to make their stay more comfortable? So Nicholas was one of those that was very innovative. Like, we looked for ways to do things to how do we help? What can we do from a technology perspective? And just even, can we get an Xbox in the room? Can we get a PlayStation in the room for them? So it was that type of mentality. So for me, it went beyond looking at the network. It was like, what else can we do to make their stay more comfortable? So to your point, and that came for me, at least for me, it came from that empathy piece of it, right? Because I felt like, man, if it was my child, if I was here, what can I do? What would I be doing? And a lot of that came from that. And they did. I mean, overall, the hospital itself did a great job at facilitating and giving us tools to try to achieve those goals.
So let me ask you this: we're in COVID now, going on a year and a half. Look like we're going to go maybe into 2 years, right? How has that changed what you do and how you manage in your world?
We've had to get creative, especially for at least on the infrastructure side. Overall, in the healthcare sector, we've tried to minimize our exposure. So typically, any other given day, on a normal day, we might have to go to the network closet. We have to get into the ceiling tiles. It's in the patient hallways. Some of it is in patient rooms. Now with COVID, just trying to minimize exposure to our own staff, we've tried to reduce having them go out there. Mm-hmm. So we've had to get creative on a couple different things. So, and I'll give you a good example, at least with my current employment. We, for example, data jacks in a patient room. For security purposes, we don't activate all the data jacks, right? You don't want to leave active ports on there. But all of a sudden now we need to take a new instrument into this particular patient room and we need a port live. That's just, with the jack in the wall, it's you need to make it live. So how do you do that without having a technician go over there, a technician walk in the closet, having to walk in the patient room to look at what the jack number is and all that other stuff? How do we do that? And, we quickly looked and we're like, okay, how do we enable this so we don't have to have people go over there? The nurses know exactly where they need to plug in and they can do what they got to do. We took full advantage. We actually have what we call these bedside APs that have ports underneath them. So we basically said, you know what? Each patient room has this. Let's go ahead and enable a port on there. And that way the nurse knows exactly where to plug in. And we made a little sketch, a little drawing, presented it to them. And now if they need it, they know that they can plug in there. And that's just something that wasn't enabled to turn on before. So that's just an example that we've had to get creative. For one, because we want to minimize exposure to our staff, and two, it's really just leverage the technology that we have. So it's pushed us, right? It's pushed us to think, what else can we do to empower the nurses, empower the doctors? They are so critical, and the last thing we want them to do is worry about the technology. So we're always going to look and do the things to make it easier for them, because they are the front line. They are the ones that are there. And, but the last thing we need them to worry about is, how do I connect this PC, or how do I connect this EKG card, or how do I do this? And that's the last thing we need them to worry about. So, like I said, it's more about getting creative and leveraging the technology we have and using it to its full potential.
Man, that is wonderful that you're doing your part, in these unprecedented times, and to step back, look at innovation and how you can do things differently to have a different outcome and safety and quality. And like I said, the clinicians and other people that are out there, they're exposed to these types of things every day. So anything that you can do from an IT perspective to limit that kind of exposure is huge. And I applaud you for that. So let me ask you this. We're going to project out 3-5 years from now. What would you like your career to look like, and why?
I have to admit, I think where I'm at now and how I've grown and being in this field and this career and being a part of the things that I've been a part of, from the desktop side, network engineering side, project management side. I think I'm at a point, and don't get me wrong, I still need mentoring. I need to stay humble, right? So I want to stay humble because, once again, I said it before, I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. It's just, that's the reason you work with people, you leverage each other, and you work together to get the job done. This is not, the one-man show over here. So I recognize that. And by the way, that's one of the things that I always love to say whenever I take over a group or I go to a new place and it's new people. I tell them all the same thing. I said, look, I'm not here to change everything. I am not here to do your jobs. We're all adults. Either we got mortgages, we got bills to pay. I am here to remove the obstacles, to basically empower you guys, give you the tools, and remove all the politics from your job, so you guys can get the work done. So that's really all I'm doing as a leader is that I want to empower you guys, and this is not my network. This is your network. At midnight when something happens, they might escalate to me, but who's going to take care of the issue? You guys. You guys are going to log into these things and look at logs, and let's look at what's going on and let's fix it. So this is your network. And or whatever it is that we're managing at that time. I let them know this is yours. This is, and so I let them know, as from a leader perspective, that's really what I want to accomplish, is just remove all the obstacles, give you the tools, and let's remove all the politics from whatever you guys are dealing with, and just so you guys can get your job done. So along that mindset for me, because I've been a part of different pieces of technology, right, within this field, I would love to get to the point where I can get into the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer role. Because once I get there, now I feel I can bring all the different aspects of IT together. So now we're working as one unit. And not that it's ever been missing from any organization, but I can see that's one thing that we can always do better at, which is making sure that the desktop side, the network side, the server side, that we're all setting the same goals and heading in the right direction together. So when I look at a Chief Technology Officer role, because the CIO for me is more wide, right? You're looking at that point, especially when it comes to healthcare, you're looking definitely a lot at the application world. You're looking at, for example, the electronic medical record. What is it doing? How is it doing it? And I have to admit, I have a passion for the infrastructure side of it when it comes to the desktops, the networking, the servers. And I think that's where I would lean on that CTO role to kind of set the mission, the vision, along with the CIO, of course, but really set the direction when it comes to those aspects of technology. And then not only that, but for me also, the CTO role will allow me to bring in some innovation into what we do. Let's think outside the box. What can we do to make things better? And that innovation piece is so key. And I learned that from one of my CIOs that I had a long time ago. That he I don't want to say he forced it upon us, but he definitely pushed a little bit hard. That he's like, hey, once a week, think about something that you can be innovative, that you can innovate in this place. Even if it's a small thought, just 5 minutes, what can we do different? And let's mention it. And that ever since then, it had me thinking, yeah, what can we do different, right? So it's not so much the firefight, it's and not even about being proactive. It's like, what can we do different to make things better? And I got to admit, ever since then, I've tried to look at things that way. And I'll give you another perfect example when it comes to that. When we're looking at like network closets, for example, I have vendors that I work with, and when you look at a network closet, it's always the same thing, right? It's a rack. You have cables going everywhere. You have your wire managers, and you have 4 walls. That's a network closet. But I don't want to say I've challenged them, but I've definitely had conversations to say, look, what are you guys doing different? You got 4 walls to work with. You guys are always putting a rack in the middle, and then you're putting cables. But what else can we do? Can we leverage the walls? Can we manage the cable system a different way? Should we be putting different patch panels? Should they be angled, not angled? What's the layout of the closet? Just what can we do different, and not just get comfortable with what's been done in the past. So I got to admit, I kind of enjoy that piece of it. So I feel getting into that CTO role will, one, like I said, allow me to do the mission vision for these different groups, but also allow me to be innovative and actually bring these different ideas into whatever institution I'm at, and have a little bit of power to really implement it, right? So that's really, I think, where I would like to see myself in the next 5 years is getting into that type of role.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up around innovation and technology, because you have to think out of the box. There's a huge challenge in the healthcare industry that's taking place around digital transformation. It's been widely known in the industry, or a lot of in business itself, that healthcare has been a laggard when it comes to adoption of certain technologies. And for reasons that make sense, and sometimes I think someone said it takes 17 years to adopt something new from a clinical perspective. So they're not that eager to change unless it's proven, right? But now you've got things like cloud computing that's been around now. People are taking advantage of it, and they're starting to see why it is important, and that you're able to get more knowledge because you're not in a silo, so to speak, just within your own network. Now you're within the universe of the entire world network, but the security aspects, there's HIPAA, there's regulations, there's compliance. How do you see this digital transformation world working out in the healthcare world?
So to your point, I mean, it's something that has been coming, and it's here, and it's not going anywhere. So to your point, we've had to adapt, right? We still rely heavily on our CIOs to kind of make the decision, because they are setting the kind of the overall vision from a security perspective, whether they feel it's safe or not safe. But I'm at a point where at least I feel that, we have to dive into it. Now, whether do you go completely 100% in that direction? Maybe not. Maybe get your feet wet, put some applications or anything on that side of the house, and get exposure to it. And but I gotta admit, I think I've done that throughout my career. That I don't want to be the guinea pig. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be the one that you're going to test on and use me for that. But let's get some exposure. Let's look at it. Let's get some exposure, understand it. And that way we can have an intelligent conversation as to why we're going to support it or why we're not going to support it. And once again, I'll give you an example when it comes to, like, for example, SD-WAN. And I know that's very techy for some of the listeners out there, but SD-WAN in regards to, having that connectivity between, at least in my case, between hospitals. There's a cost savings factor when it comes to that. But the technology itself, the security piece of it, the redundancy piece of it, that's not something that I can dive into from a healthcare organization. I can't dive into it 100% and say, hey, we're changing everybody. But why don't we start with a small site? Let's go ahead and get, a remote site. Let's get SD-WAN out there. Let's test it out. And if it works and we can prove that it's redundant and secure and all that other stuff, then we move forward. So that's kind of been my approach for a lot of the technology that as it has evolved, is I'm never going to say no to it. But let's test drive it. Let's go ahead and test drive it, prove it. And then at least I can have an intelligent conversation, whether it's yes or no.
No, I totally agree with that, because everything you do in the healthcare world in a hospital is critical. So it's got to work. You can't be it might work. It has to work. And it's got to be a proven technology. But there's so many different things. As we said, you even alluded to earlier, there were mainframes when you first got into this business, right? The network looked different. Maybe some people even had token ring, right? And then it started to change. So technology changes every 18 months. You can't just hold on to an old way of doing things, because then you'll find yourself so far behind, you can't catch up. Right. And then you have this thing with the consumerization of health, IT, or just consumerization of healthcare itself. People are going to demand that, right? They're used to that now. We're now in a virtual console, remote patient monitoring. The hospitals aren't making as many rooms. They're starting to go outside of their four walls. So all this is starting to change rapidly because society is changing, right?
Yeah.
This has been wonderful that you brought this up. And I know you need to say some other things, and we're going to wrap this up at this point, but I want you to leave the audience with your final thoughts about who Harley Ortiz is in this world of health IT and the impacts he has made and what you're going to be doing as you move forward.
For me, I really just want to put myself in a situation where I can make a difference for the people that we're serving. Whether it comes down to, in my case, the nurses, the doctors, the staff members, for them to do their work and their jobs. I want to ensure, because of the responsibilities I have, that they have the tools that they need in order to get their jobs done. Because once again, at the end of the day, we're doing this for the patients, especially because of healthcare IT, right? And if we can make a difference from that aspect, then it just trickles down. That means we did our jobs, the nurses did their jobs, doctors, and everybody else involved has done their jobs, and this patient is now better for it. So the impact I want to have is exactly that. I want to put myself in a situation where I've helped somebody else. If it's a networking piece of it, fine. If it's the computer piece of it, fine. If it's pushing a wheelchair, for somebody to get to their patient room, I will be there. But that's the impact I want to have. I want to make a difference in other people's lives. And not only that, but also, like I mentioned before, if I have somebody working with me that's one of my employees, and I see them succeeding and I see them getting certifications, and there's a better opportunity for them, and I was a part of that I helped them get another job, or I helped them get a raise, or I helped them, just be better in life. Once again, I'm so happy to be a part of that. So I think at the end of the day, if I can enrich somebody, if I can help somebody, I think I did a good job.
Oh, I agree. I'm going to applaud you right now. Thank you very much for sharing on Follow the Brand. This has been wonderful. And if the audience wanted to get in touch with you, you're on social media? I mean, what's the best way to get in touch with Harley Ortiz?
So my thing is LinkedIn. I try to keep it real. I don't want to say professional, but I try to keep up with it mostly on the LinkedIn side of stuff. Obviously keep it updated and follow the articles. And as a matter of fact, that's how I stay in touch with you as well, through LinkedIn. So if anything, LinkedIn, I'm available through LinkedIn. I can be reached out through LinkedIn. So definitely that's the avenue to go.
Well, excellent. That's what we will do. I can't wait for this to air. Everyone's going to get more knowledge, more understanding, and more appreciation for the work that is done in our healthcare system by our IT professionals. So thank you very much. Make sure everyone, you can always tune in to all the different episodes and Follow the Brand at www.5starbdm. That's B for brand, D for development, and for masters.com. So until next time, we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Grant.